Betty, hi. I've been getting a lot of questions on how I do my bilingual reading for language learning lately. So I figured I would give you a bit of a tutorial. I am not a YouTuber, I'm a teacher, so please apologies for the setup, which is not ideal for filming videos. We'll do with what we have for now. Okay, so if you don't know what bilingual reading is, it's basically when you take a text in your target language and in a translated version, like I have here, German on one side and French on the other, and you use this text to work on your target language by reading both sides and matching some new words or noticing how new ideas are expressed in one language or the other. So I've been getting a lot of questions. I've taken a very, very short text where I can give you some examples of things we can notice in two identical texts in two languages to try and work things out and understand more. A few things about bilingual reading is that you can start very early on, very, very early on. Actually, if the text is simple and small enough, even if you don't speak a single word, you might be able to work things out with a completely new text. We've figured out how to read ancient languages like this. So if you have a very easy text and you have access to dictionaries and the internet, you can start on day one, assuming that it's a writing system that you know. If it's a different writing system, for example, if you speak English and you're trying to learn Chinese, I do not know how that would work. It might work, but since I don't speak any language that uses a different writing system, I cannot tell you. So I will not pretend that I know. So you can start super early on, basically on day one. You just need to not try to understand all of it, because if you try to understand every single word on day one, it's going to be overwhelming and it's not going to help you. The main advantage of bilingual reading is that you learn by observation and by your own perception. There's no one telling you, oh, there is that rule, there is this and that, and no, it's you and the language. It's very good to do that. Sure, a teacher or a classes can help you figure things out, understand things better, or guide you through activities that would allow you to build that perception. But at the end of the day, you're the one learning and adopting that new language. So spending time just you and that language is very good. And you can do that with real content in the language, not some text that was written for beginners that is, let's be honest, kind of boring, often very artificial. At least I can say that about content for French learners. It's often very artificial, very far from how people actually use the language in day-to-day life. So you can use real content that was meant for native speakers or people who are comfortable in the language, or, you know, real interesting content, and you can pick something that is about a topic you care to read about. So those are some advantages, and you should definitely give it a try. I think it's pretty fun. It does take a lot of mental energy, I will admit. This is the moment that I am the most focused in my day, in my week, in my life, probably. So I do it little by little. I don't spend hours doing this. I would be dead. All right, let's have a look, see how that would work. I'm going to share my screen. I am totally recording on Zoom right now. All right, share screen, share screen. And this is the screen we want to look at. There we go. So I have here a text. On one side, it's in French, and on the other, in English, right? Simple enough. It says the same thing on both sides. That's the concept, right? Bilingual reading, you have one version of the text in the original and one translated into a language you understand. If you don't understand a single word of French, you can already figure some things out. Oh, I decided to leave the accent there. Funny. Okay. So, if you don't speak French at all, I'm sure you can already spot things that you recognize are the same on both sides, right? Names, pretty easy. Quebec and France, easy enough. We can tell it's the same thing. These are names rather, names of places. They look identical. Easy. Numbers, easy. So that already gives you repair, that's not the word, like points of reference is what I'm trying to say. You can find points of reference. With the nouns, sorry, the names and the numbers. You can also use punctuation in most texts. Sometimes punctuation is very different between two languages. I can tell you French and English, it's a good tool. It's been working for me in French and German as well. It might not always work, but typically punctuation will be a good tool. Most of the time it will be similar between French and English. The rules are slightly different, but when you have the same text, it can help you separate, okay, those ideas in that section of the sentence are probably the same, right? Between the start of the sentence and the comma, I probably have the same ideas. So I'm not going to look for this word all the way here, right? It's probably not going to be the same word. That can help you narrow things down. Even if you do not speak a single word of of French, you have one word between the two numbers. You might already be able to find one word that you can translate. And I've only seen it once. So if that word varies in the way we use it or the way we translate it, you don't know yet. That is okay. That is the one thing you have to be okay with when doing bilingual reading. It's uncertainty. Not knowing for sure on the first time that you see the word. You're going to see that word in similar contexts over and over again. And eventually you'll be certain, okay, this word means and. It's always in a situation where it's clear that it has to be translated to and, or it's always translated to and. Easy, easy, cool. Sometimes it will vary. It won't always be translated the same way, or that same word can be used in many, many different ways, like the word so in English. Oh, it's so pretty. So I've been to that place, right? We vary the way we use the word. It has different roles, different meaning. If that's the case, it'll take longer before you understand it for sure. That's okay. You have to be okay with noticing a pattern and not being certain of how to translate it or how to use it. And just take note of what you see. Oh, I see it translated that way, or I think it might mean that. And stop at that. Be okay not knowing, move on, wait for the next time you'll see it, and again and again and again, and eventually that word that has different meaning will be clear to you because you have seen it in so many situations. Just like you would be comfortable with a word in your native language. You've heard it many, many times used by people who were already comfortable with the language when you were little. You heard your parents, your teachers, your friends use it, and eventually you figured it out. It's the same, but in writing. But say I got one word. Even if I don't speak the language at all, I know nothing of French, I got one word. And at first, when you have a block of text meant for native speakers, it might be all you get. One word. My first page, I think I got one word. That's all right. You learned one word. And you saw some words. You might not know what they mean, but you're more likely to notice them if they come back over and over again. They might start to look familiar and you'll pick up on what they mean eventually. So at first, one word is super good. I could call it a day. Yeah, I learned a word by myself. But of course, we're here, so let's keep looking. Is there something else you could figure out if you don't speak French at all? If that's your case, have a look at the text and see what you think. I'll give you a few seconds. Another thing you can look for is words that are similar between the two languages. I'm sure you see them. I always run out of space on my board. Maybe someday I'll learn. We have quite a few here. Now, this is a text that was written to teach this technique. So, of course, there's going to be a lot of examples. You could work out that majoritairement and majoritarily, it's very hard to say, are the same words. If you're learning French, you probably already know how to say French in French. So it's likely that this is familiar. Colony and colonie. Territoire and territory. You could work things out like this. Very easy. In reality, when you have a real text, you usually don't have as many words that are similar as this. Maybe one every 2 pages. That's fine. Don't aim to understand the entire thing. Here we have a very small text, which was written to practice those techniques. So there, jump back and you can actually work out the entire text with very, very little French because it's small and it's built around words that beginners typically learn and words that are similar. In real life, you're probably not going to understand the entire text. That's all right. Get what you can get. If you care to understand the content, which you probably do if the content is interesting, read the part that is in your language at the end so you can keep up with the story or whatever it is that you're reading and be okay with what you were able to understand. And the rest, that's okay. We didn't get it all. Let's move on. Let's leave it aside. If you started speaking French, you probably have some words that are similar to the words you know or words that you simply know. Words you know in the new language, like français. Oh, that's not what I wanted. You've probably learned the name of the language in the language. But that can be a new point of reference. In that section, we said with the punctuation, it's probably all the same content. Well, we only have 3 elements in English. 3 elements of that idea that are now somewhere in those words. The placement of those words can help you. Now, when you are relying only on placement and it's a completely new word, This is where you're more likely to misinterpret the word on first try. But as you see the word over and over again, you'll figure it out. If you made a mistake in your first assumption, you'll find out. This is why you have to be okay with uncertainty. You need multiple instances of completely new words to be certain that you understood the right thing. Not only is this okay, but that's kind of the whole concept. That's not a very good color, is it? Let's go with the purple. I can work out that. We used O in a similar way as in when talking about a place. Is it always like that? Is it exactly the same meaning? Oh, not sure. If you're new to it, you're not sure. We can just notice it was used here. Okay. That leaves us with 3 words in French and 2 in English. So we can notice that the number of words is not exactly the same. So things are probably a little bit different and they're placed differently in the sentence. And honestly, if you're alone and you're not taking classes, you might not be able to know which one is the verb and which one is the subject. That's fine. You can just notice, hey, order of word is different. You learned something. It's not something you can use right away. You haven't learned how to place those words by yourself or which one is which, but you learned. With that idea, we placed the words in a different order. And you'll see that again and again and again. And you'll find a pattern eventually. Another thing we can look at is words that are similar to words we know in the language. So if you are learning French, it's very likely you'll learn some key verbs early on, such as the word to have. Avoir. And you might notice that avait, while different to avoir, is similar. So you can guess that, oh, maybe this is a different form of the verb, a conjugated form. Are you going to be certain? Maybe not. Not on a full page. Might take a couple of times before you're certain. In this case, however, it's right before colony. It's a very short text, so you can work out that, yes, indeed, avait would be to have, and likely in past tense like it is in English, in the English side of the text. In a full page, in real content, I will be honest with you, you're probably not going to work it out on the first try. It might take 3, 4, 5 times that you see the word to work things out. Now, how do I do this when I'm on a real page and I'm not sure? I write down my theory. I will typically circle the word and on the new language side and on the translated side and say, oh, I think these are the two, these two are the same. If I'm really unsure and I have to pay attention, I might put a question mark next to it, or if the text is very small, very all squished together, I copy the word at the top or the bottom of the page. So when I flip through my book, I look at a word and I think, oh, it's very familiar. I think I've copied it before, maybe. Let's look through the previous pages and, oh yeah, I was thinking maybe this word means that. Does that work with that new instance? Yes. Okay, one more time. And yes, I've worked out what it means. Takes a couple of times. Again, this is the key part. Be okay with uncertainty. I cannot say it enough. So we have points of reference with points of reference. Yeah, whatever. In the names the numbers, the punctuation. We can work things out even if you don't know any words in the new language. Some will be similar, especially between French and English. Some will be similar to words in your language that you already speak. If you've started learning the language, there's going to be words you know and words that are similar to words you know. After that, what is in between those points of reference, you might be able to work out what is what by logic. If you're good at math, this is your time to shine. We know that one of these words has to be a verb because we have a verb left here. Something here would be because. If you started learning, you know that la is an article, so it goes with France. And oh, we don't have it in English. So we say things differently in French. It's a good idea to make a note of it, either write it down or highlight it or something. Make sure you do something that involves paying attention to that little difference. You're learning a role by observation. And by logic, I can work out that parce que means because. As you work through it, you might be able to get all of those words. Or not. Again, if you have a big text, probably not. But you'll work out some of it at the very least. At first, maybe one word, and then many words, and then entire phrases and rules, and how we express ideas in that new language. And you get to know it, just you and your new language. And you get to adopt it as a new language of your own over time through content that you feel like reading. Would that work in audio? I'm not sure. If you've tried it, let me know. I will put a summary of all of this at the end of the video. So I hope that helps. And if you have any questions, please do let me know. I will make a video next week about different ways you can find bilingual text because we have books that are published that way, but what if you can't find one? Or what if you're not interested in the ones you find? Well, I will give you some strategies to find bilingual text to do that exact technique. Until next time, have a good day.